on the finale of a special 4-part Voices from Beyond series.
Can you tell Karl what you think about him?
Asshole?
Perfect.
Some of the ghosts didn't like Karl.
From deep inside the mysterious archives of the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal, it's the Haunted Objects Podcast.
Voices from Beyond.
The proud tradition of creating weird devices to speak to extraterrestrials and ghosts and all kinds of weird non-corporeal shit has continued. Because today we're doing an episode that everyone has been begging us to do for forever.
Finally
we're doing it.
It's
That was
happening.
what this series has led to. We needed to give the backstory of ITC, of EVP, of mediumship. We needed everybody to have a primer in this before we talked about something people have been begging us to talk about, which is the Estes Method. I would argue the most exciting development in the ghost hunting world in, I don't know, 20 years probably?
I think easily.
If you're listening to the show, there's a good chance that you know what the Estes Method is already. If you don't, if you watch any paranormal television, if you've watched Hellier, you know what this is. You've seen it. It's when somebody puts on an eye mask, they have a giant set of headphones they put on, and then they plug into what's called a spirit box or an SB7 radio.
Yeah.
And then they just start to tell you what they're hearing.
I'm Greg. This is Dana. This is Karl. And this is Connor. What's your name?
My name is Michael.
Oh my God. Thank you, Michael.
This is basically the culmination of the entire series that we've been working on. We start with mediumship, and then we go into electronics, and then we go into ITC and the radio. And now we're here with something that combines all of those things for something that feels entirely new. It feels very fresh. How would you define the Estes Method? What the Estes Method is doing, Dana?
I think the best way to describe it is that it is tech-assisted mediumship. And I think that really at the end of the day, what we're doing is practicing being psychic.
I think that for a lot of people listening, that might be kind of an interesting statement. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who think that what it's doing is you're literally listening to ghosts talk.
Yeah, I think that that's probably what most people think that we're doing.
And I think that's how it's portrayed a lot on a lot of the television shows. And maybe that's sort of what it seemed like at the beginning, but our ideas about it have changed quite a bit.
Yes.
We have the experts, the people who developed the Estes Method in studio with us.
No pressure, dudes.
No pressure.
At all.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they're here all the time.
I know.
We just so happen to be like best friends with the guys who developed this thing.
We're doing an incredibly deep dive into this subject matter today with like the people that actually created it. And we're going to get a look at a lot of material that was sort of being documented throughout the process of your creation of this method. So much of what we're going to hear about today is stuff that no one has ever heard before.
This is your definitive guide to the Estes Method.
In a darkened room, 3 ordinary objects await. A pair of headphones, a blindfold, and a broken radio. Alone, they're unremarkable. Together, they became a doorway. The practitioner slips on the blindfold, presses the headphones to their ears, and surrenders to the hiss of radio static. They cannot see you, they cannot hear you, and yet, somehow, when you speak to the isolated channeler, they answer. But the words do not belong to them. This is the Estes Method, a haunting fusion of direct voice mediumship and device-assisted spirit communication that has become a staple of modern paranormal investigation. In this episode, we explore the modern era's most talked about method of spirit contact with the very people who created it, as we follow the method's early experiments to its rise into the spotlight through the Hellier docuseries. One unsettling truth becomes clear. In the Estes Method, the static is never empty, and the voices from beyond may hold a frightening secret that few are prepared to accept.
Okay, now to give you the history of the Estes Method,
Yes.
we have to go to Colorado and meet up with Karl Pfeiffer and Connor Randall, who had jobs at the Stanley Hotel. Guys, tell us about your work up at the Stanley, arguably like the most haunted hotel in America.
My first job was at the Stanley Hotel.
That's so cool.
So I was 17 years old going up there on breaks, during basic, when I was in high school, working there, and really wanted to just be a part of the legend of the place. I wanted to be a part of the ghost stories. I loved ghosts, as we talked about from an early age, and the Stanley Hotel was an hour away, and it was the place to be. I don't know why you ended up there, Karl. What do you say? Same thing?
It almost sounded like shots fired there. Like, I don't know why you ended up there, though.
I know I liked it the most, Karl.
Well, I liked it okay. You saw a lot more of it in your childhood than I did. I was up there basically after Ghost Hunters Academy, which I did a stint on the first season.
Shut up, Karl. You won.
He was the
Karl
winner,
was the
dude.
winner of Ghost Hunters Academy. You might not know this, but Karl has the biggest gold star in this group. He won a television show.
That is true.
You gotta get him a gold star. Yes.
It was a elimination reality television show.
Yeah.
It was. Yes.
It was a Ghost Hunter spinoff that existed for a few seasons.
And that's
right?
all we need to say about that.
And Karl won.
Karl did chastise me. He was going through all of the media collection here in the museum archives, and he saw like every ghost hunting show except for Ghost Hunters Academy, and he was upset. Thought I wasn't a real friend because I didn't have a season, but I can't find it for a reasonable price.
I see what I'm worth to you.
Oh,
it's fine.
God.
Well, you know what to get me for Christmas, Karl.
That is true.
It won't be a reasonable price for me either. I'll just give you my only copy
Oh,
of it.
perfect.
Yeah.
Sign it before you give it to me.
Yeah, perfect.
The winner.
The winner. One of the winners of one of the seasons. No, it was after that. I actually went with a buddy from that first season. We went up to check out the Stanley Hotel because I was like, this is the most haunted place in Colorado.
Sure.
Like, we got to go check this out. And by going up there, made friends with the resident ghost hunter at the time, Callie. And kind of after that was like, well, if you ever need a hand up here doing the ghost
You literally
hunts.
did that.
Basically, yeah, it was kind of like that. We just kind of became buddies. And so the first couple of months to round out, 2010, I kind of just came up and just kind of like haunted the ghost hunts. And then it was around January 2011, I signed on officially and started leading the ghost hunts with Callie. And that lasted for the next 5 years, pretty much after that, just doing... We were resident investigators. We didn't live up there, but it was weekend ghost hunts. We had about 20 to 40 people on a ghost hunt, I think. And we would just kind of split into groups and do 5-hour ghost hunts. And that was basically how I spent my weekends for 5 years.
Karl was the cool nighttime ghost guy who would appear. So I'm giving tourists the boring history stuff at 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then I clock out at dinner time and the ghost hunters show up. And Karl was one of the ghost hunters.
That's cool, though.
But I
That's so
still
cool.
hung around him anyway.
You know how many people out there are listening to this and be like, wow, that's a dream job.
I know.
It was a dream job. The access was pretty unprecedented as well. That was also, to be honest, the Stanley has changed a bit in recent years. It's a lot more formal, maybe is the word. A lot more rigid in sort of like, this is what this is and this is what this is. Back then, it was a lot more of an open space.
Sure.
We kind of went wherever. We had keys. Maybe they didn't know where we were going, all the places we were going, but we went a lot of places. And we ended up anyway discovering that the best place to ghost hunt was down in one of the outbuildings in the concert hall.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of down the hill from the main hotel, but it's still a part of that original complex. It's a building where they host the concerts. Our favorite area was the basement of the concert hall, which is where all the dressing rooms are.
You know, it's funny. We spoke at the Stanley Hotel last year on last year's Haunted Objects live tour.
Yeah.
And you guys got to give us a tour, which was the first time we got to see this. It was exactly where the Estes Method was developed. It was right under the stage that we were speaking at.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to go down there with you two. I mean, we're lobbying for a plaque.
I know.
There needs
I
to be
think
a plaque on the wall.
there has to be one there. It's the only thing that would make sense. It doesn't have to be big, but just a little small plaque on the wall that says, "This is the spot where the Estes Method was created."
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to go into the show. This hallway, literally right here,
Right in this spot right here.
is where the Estes Method was invented. And we're speaking right above it.
We literally will be, yeah.
Crazy full circle
Yeah.
moment. You didn't just run ghost hunts there. You guys also started a series.
Michelle Tate from Ghost Hunters Academy season 2 was like, I'm going to move to Colorado and take up this job as well. And so we made a little announcement about it on our Stanley Facebook page. And it got some attention on the Facebook page. It was exciting news. And it kind of reminded us that we had this Facebook fan page. And we're like, let's use this a little bit more. So we started filming little vlog style updates about the activity that had been happening on the ghost hunts. And that evolved into just filming some of the investigations we were doing after the public left at the end of the night from 1 a.m. till 3 a.m. and just seeing what would happen. And it wound up becoming like a little web series for a couple of episodes.
Karl's being very humble here, but it was a very well done web series.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much like that's how we found you guys. That's
Yeah.
how we knew what you guys were up to. It's the first time we saw the Estes Method. Was in Spirits of the Stanley.
I mean, it's also very cool because you were giving people access to the building in the way that you guys were investigating. So it was like being able to kind of go along with you guys and have this unprecedented access to this iconic place. And you had two people that were people that were leading you through this investigation that you really trusted. So it was a really great kind of fun thing to watch.
Yeah, we loved it. I mean, back when we were running Week in Weird, we wrote an article about it.
Yeah.
Because we thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've got to say, the Stanley Hotel screwed it up because, man, that's the best marketing you could possibly have had.
I know.
Is this like really awesome web series where people are doing cool stuff.
So
and then you
smart,
can go
too.
and meet them and investigate with them. Come on.
It was genius marketing.
Yeah.
It the long in-depth story short was that the individuals on the upper management of the hotel really didn't care for the ghost aspect for one reason or another, and we're much more interested in the making the hotel into a classy business and wedding resort and a horror aspect of it, and for some reason always had it out for the ghosts. And so by doing the web series, we kind of stuck our heads up a little bit and got on people's radar. We kind of got whack-a-moled a little.
I remember there was an online riot.
I know.
When the ghost hunts were shut down.
Yeah.
There was a huge online riot.
Yeah.
We stoked those fires a little bit. We
bit.
wrote an article about it on
We
Week in
did.
Weird because we were upset. We got to go to the last public ghost hunting event that they'd had there.
That's where we met.
That's where we met. That's where we met you guys.
That is very true.
So for people who haven't seen Spirits of the Stanley, which you absolutely should, we'll have links in the show notes. There'll be some clips in this episode. Go check it out. It really is like the beginning of Hellier. It's like where you were cutting your teeth.
Project I did. You know, Hellier was the first like formal project, and Spirits of the Stanley was the first. Let's try out doing some video stuff after my photo background.
It really is where you guys developed the Estes Method. You can watch it happen on camera.
Yeah, in real time.
Which is so cool.
I think right now could be an interesting time to run that spirit box experiment. All right, so right now we're gonna run this little experiment out in the hallway. We're gonna try to communicate with this spirit, but I'm gonna be running the spirit box, but instead of running it through a speaker the way that we normally do, I'm gonna be wearing headphones with it. So the idea is I'm gonna turn it up loud enough that I can't hear any of the questions being asked by the group. But what I'm gonna be doing is if I hear something come through, I'll just say it aloud. And if that seems to answer one of the questions that the group was asking, that'll be pretty interesting. So you guys will have to let me know as best you can.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
And if anything else is happening, just kind of steal me. So.
You know that Karl's a true ghost hunting trooper when he will listen to a spirit box with headphones super loud.
In fact, because of Spirits of the Stanley and the web series that we were making, we were documenting these after hours ghost hunts too, right? And sort of making them into that web series for the Facebook page, like Karl said, which is hilarious now, posting a web series on the Facebook. But that's where it was.
Seems like a perfect way to have nobody watch it.
Exclusively on Facebook.com. And of course, it's on YouTube now. We'll link in the show notes. But the thing is, you can literally see the very first time that we plugged into the headphones.
Can you tell Karl what color my shoes are.
I plugged in the spirit box first, listening on FM stations, and I heard very little. Michelle gave it a shot, and she did hear more words, but we weren't quite getting the consistency that we were hoping for, so we decided to give Connor a shot on the spirit box. That's when we started getting the most compelling results.
Hey Connor, question real quick.
What?
Was that you?
Just said what really loud.
So right off the bat, I asked Connor, I said, hey Connor, I got a quick question for you real quick before we start. It was almost a comical response because it sounded like the spirit was responding for Connor to my control question to see if Connor could hear us at all.
What was your question for Connor?
Well, it was just a test to see if he could hear. Is this a spirit with a sense of humor right now? Is there anything we should know about this concert hall and investigating here and the spirits that are here?
Safe here.
Safe here?
Pride.
You proud to be a spirit here? Are you proud of this place?
Very.
Are you a new spirit here? And you're excited to be a spirit of the Stanley?
Did you come here because you like The Shining?
Sort of.
Dang, dude.
So cool.
That's the first time.
The first time, yeah. I tried it
it's so
first, then
good.
Michelle tried it, and then Connor jumped on. And
So are you saying the first time Connor ever did the Estes Method, his absolute first answer that he did was like literally a direct hit?
iconic enough to quote right there. What? Michelle next to him.
Wild.
As soon as I plugged in, this radio scan started going across, and it just sort of dawned, oh, I just need to be a megaphone for the sounds that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And that's all that I was from the very beginning.
There was an element to it that we were trying it out for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Yeah.
know that it's easy for someone to watch that and kind of even look and be like, what the heck? They're debuting the Estes Method and they don't even have decent headphones. They just have some shitty pre-noise cancellation.
You were working it
wired
out. You were
Apple ones.
workshopping it.
Yeah, but we were just trying it out to see if it would work. And that's where I like the test that I did to see if Connor could hear and whatnot, because like we were doing everything we could. We were talking relatively softly. We were trying to cup our ears to keep a little extra sound out. We had the spirit box up as loud as it could because we weren't trying to convince anyone else.
Yeah.
We were all very serious about trying to see if this would yield anything by doing this. And
Sure.
so we did not want to have it accidentally hearing anything
Right.
and
Yes.
saying
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So you see there, it's very scrappy beginnings, but like we were trying to take it seriously and give it as good a try as we could to see if there might be something to it.
You were clearly pretty interested in it because you guys did it again the next night.
Is that what you're referencing?
Me?
Who's a punk?
Who's a punk?
The answer is you.
Did just mirrors comment?
It's not you.
Oh my gosh.
This is getting scary how good this is.
This is getting scary how good this is. I mean, that really kind of says it all.
Yeah.
We were stoked on this, so we were sitting down for half an hour trying it each at a time, taking turns. Yeah, and we both had success. The interesting thing too, Mark and I both had the most success that night as well, and we're also the two musicians in the room
Interesting.
as well.
Weird.
So I don't know if that correlates at all either, but you'll notice a big difference there too. I have my drummer's headphones. Those are Vic Firth stereo isolation headphones.
This is one of my favorite things is it's an incidental change that I don't think would have been there if it wasn't for the fact that Connor was a drummer. Because those are such a specific set of headphones that are made for such a specific use, but somehow when you're sitting there going, man, I don't know, we got to make sure we can't hear each other with the kind of headphones that we're wearing. We need some better cans. And Connor's like, oh, I'm a drummer. I have to cut down on the sound. these things cup your ears so tight you can't hear anything when there's music playing through them.
They're pretty specific. This was not, this isn't noise canceling technology. That's different.
Yes. Yes. That's a common confusion with the Estes method. People are always saying to use noise canceling, but those are digital. This is analog.
The real thinking at the time as ghost hunters, as like TAP's family member and Ghost Hunters Academy person, was that we didn't want to use noise canceling headphones, because if there is indeed like a spirit voice coming through like an EVP, you don't want that noise canceling tone that's played into your ear to like mute the volume or mute the level of sound that the ghost voice comes in at. So it was important to us to try to block out as much noise as we could while getting a true signal from the spirit box. And honestly, I'm not even sure what we would have done if Connor hadn't been there with the drummer headphones. I probably just would have used my skull candies with a really good ear seal, and just like, would I ever have thought about the optics of that,
Sure.
And skeptical people.
Don't worry.
People
watching would have told you.
For
They
sure.
still do, and they don't understand what kind of headphones are being used, or like how well that seals the external world out of you.
It does. They're great headphones. And we're not sponsored. Maybe we should be.
We should be. Yeah.
It is. Vic Firth is a drumming company. They make drum accessories. That's not a headphone company necessarily. So mostly drumsticks is where they make the majority of their business. I play Vic Firth 5As for any drummers out there. What the headphones do is they offer 25 decibels of noise reduction. Okay, so we're not using any sort of technology to cancel out the noise. It's not filtering anything in or out. They're just gigantic squeezy cans that squeeze your head and basically take whatever noise volume that's around you and immediately cut 25 decibels down. For context, normal conversation, so we're talking right now, I would guess probably at maybe 60 to 70 decibels.
Yeah.
And so it would take our conversation and make it 35 decibels.
Sure. You can hear kind of muffled noise if you don't have anything going through them.
Right.
But when you have audio playing through them, like that's all you're hearing. And that's kind of the point, right? Because they're made for recording sessions, aren't they?
Yeah, they're made for the recording sessions so that I can listen to the guitars or the background track or whatever you need, the click track while you're playing the drums. And it doesn't disturb you too much with how loud your cymbals are and everything like that.
They are a little bit uncomfortable to wear. They're very tight squeeze.
That's true. They are.
Yes. I have a question that I'm assuming the audience is probably curious about too. At this point in time, are you guys starting to get really excited about like what's actually happening? Because like I can imagine at this point you're like, all right, we've tried this once, we've tried this twice. People are like literally starting to answer questions. Like you must have been really excited and sort of like ready to dive in even more with kind of continuing this investigation technique.
We were ready to be there like every night of the week. Yeah.
I don't blame you.
I don't blame you.
That sounds awesome.
These things ended at 1 a.m, and then we'd clean up and then and throw away the coffee and stuff. And then we'd go into the kitchen and we'd clock out under the tunnels of the Stanley Hotel about 1:45. Then we go back to the concert hall to do this.
That's
for
awesome.
another 2 hours. So
that's so cool.
That's how it started.
I think this was the time more than ever before that we would try to go up on like off nights too, where there wasn't even a public ghost hunt, but it was just late enough we could go in there by ourselves if there wasn't an event.
All right, up until this point, if you're watching the video podcast, and you should be, there's lots of clips in this episode.
Yes.
You'll notice that there's an iconic part of the Estes method that has not yet appeared. The blindfold. What was the thinking behind the blindfold?
Early on, I believe in the first or second night that we did it, there was one of those moments that happens sometimes where the person on the box, the receiver, says something like, stand up. Or something weird like that. And everyone goes like, all right, I guess we'll stand up.
Stand up. Okay. Oh, okay. Everybody's gonna stand up now.
What is your name?
And I remember the receiver kind of like looking up at one point going, oh, everyone's standing now, because they had said that thing. And I think that just sort of solidified it in the head that there's a lot of ways that the visual perception of even a dark room can influence you as the receiver. Whether or not that's something that we'll see later, where we're literally like holding up an amount of fingers on our hands or something. There's lots of reactivity input that can contribute to that conversation back and forth. And so it was very clear that we just needed to cut off that additional sense of input about what the conversation was that was happening around us.
The blindfold was not, I think there's a bit of a misnomer where people think that it was intentionally like mimicking the Gansfeld experiment or something like that.
Sure.
That was not in our headspace at all. It was just, no, the person needs to not have any feedback from outside.
All right, so why is it called the Estes Method?
Well, that's the important clarification.
Where are you from,
it's
Greg?
not. It's not.
It's not.
There's so many people who call it the Estes Method, like testes.
They do.
And I get it. If you haven't been to Estes Park and you don't know how it's pronounced out there, you might pronounce it Estes, or maybe you've never watched any of our material.
There's an East Coast reaction. My poor grandmother from New Jersey has been out here for 20 years in Colorado now. Still calls it Estes Park.
Does not rhyme with testes or any sort of genitalia at all. It's just Estes. So it's the Estes Method.
Oh, yes, the vulva method.
The Estes Method in Colorado. So
Yes.
that's a rad, not a raw. And so it's Estes Park, Colorado.
You had a million different things to choose from. Why was it the Estes Method?
Well, none of us wanted to name it after ourselves.
Oh, come on.
We were being maybe too humble, or maybe there were, too many of us that were working on it. So there's that. And it was founded in Estes Park, Colorado. And then I don't want to speak for you, Karl, here, but at that point, I was kind of mad at the Stanley. And so we were like,
you could have called it the Stanley
we're not
Method.
going to call it the Stanley Method. And so we had to go with something that had to do with the creation of where it happened. And we wanted, it really actually was important to us to name it about, where it had happened, because that honors the ghosts as well. Who helped us.
That was really it for sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about the device, because it's a unique device. It is specific to ghost hunting, really. It was a device that was developed for ghost hunting, the SB7. What's the deal with the SB7?
The SB7, which I have to assume stands for Spirit Box version number 7, is essentially a broken radio with the scan function continuously running. That actually originates from back something called the Shack Hack that was common in the 90s. Greg's holding one
We've
up now.
got one right here.
Yep.
This is from our collection.
Iconic.
You would basically cut a cord and the radio would continuously scan, right? What changes a little bit about this device here is that you can specify how quickly it's scanning. You can specify, obviously, whether it's AM or FM, how quickly it's scanning, and also whether it's sweeping forward or sweeping backward.
Which is actually one of those things that I always like to specify, because I hear it sometimes a little inaccurately. Going forward or backward is literally just the order that you are going through the stations.
Yes.
It's which way the digital knob is spinning.
The dial is spinning.
Yeah.
It goes 99.1, 99.3, 99.5, or the other direction. It does not rewind anything. The voices are not coming in. It's not going
why does it keep saying the
backwards.
Lord's Prayer backwards every time I try it?
If it's saying the Lord's Prayer backwards, that's the entity.
Oh, that's the demons.
That's not the setting on the device.
Exactly.
So just an clarification. It goes up or it goes down.
Got it.
The SB7 was made by a guy named Gary Galka. He's an electrical engineer, lives in Connecticut. He founded, I believe it's called DAS Distribution Incorporated. It's electronic measurement equipment.
Oh, cool.
Not just for ghost hunters, but for like plumbers and electricians and stuff like that too. So basically it's a device sort of measurement company.
I hear there's some crossover between those two careers with ghost hunting. So it makes perfect sense that this would be the guy who goes into building specific devices.
And Gary saw a paranormal television show apparently a long time ago and thought maybe there should be things more specifically designed for these ghost hunter guys. He was also inspired because he tragically lost his daughter Melissa in a car accident. That was back in 2004, and he's given some interviews about that. And in a sense, for himself, he's making these devices as a way to either honor her or maybe even try and reach out to her too.
That is not uncommon. I mean, one of the things, we didn't spend a ton of time talking about it in the previous few episodes of the series, but a lot of the people who've built the devices that we've talked about have had some kind of a tragedy occur in their lives that have made them want to try and reach across the veil and see if they can speak to one of their loved ones who's passed away.
Yeah, it feels like grief seems to be sort of the starting point for their interest in creating a lot of these tools.
For sure. I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
He invented the REM pod, which is a
Insane
staple
to
on
me.
these things. He invented the Mel meter.
Sure.
Mel stands for Melissa.
yeah.
That was his
His
daughter's
daughter.
name. That measures all sorts of different, paranormal alleged things too. And of course, the SB7 and the SB11, these different spirit box things as well. Really what it is it's a radio that you can be more specific with.
Yeah, we really started using the SB7 on the ghost hunts because it was the best device to be used in a group ghost hunting setting.
Sure.
Sure, that makes sense.
When you got a lot of tourists coming through, you guys have done events.
Yeah.
You know that when you've got an EMF detector on a table and
Everybody has
a
to
voice
crowd
recorder,
around.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
try to use the flashlight technique, and everyone's waiting for something to happen.
Right.
Nothing's happening. Like part of our job was we were kind of storytellers up there. It was kind of filling those quiet moments while we were waiting for something to happen with some story and education. But it is nice to have a couple of the devices going in a way that's a little bit more interesting. People got to think that there's something that could happen at any given moment. And honestly, the SB7 was kind of the best one that we could play, and people were hearing stuff. And it was like, well, did it just say go to hell? Like,
Why does it always say that?
I heard the Lord's Prayer backwards. Do you have this on reverse? Do you have this setting in rewind? The thing about the spirit box to me that's always, it's entertaining to watch is that it's a kind of grating.
Yeah.
When you have that thing going really loud in a room, it kind of sets your hackles up and you just are waiting for something weird to come out of it. So it does this weird thing. It like changes the vibe of a room a lot.
It really does. It gets people sort of agitated almost. Like you can feel that kind of like everyone's a little bit paranoid. You can sort of feel everybody's anxiety raising as it sort of continues. It's as if like there's something that's going to happen. So everyone's sort of
device.
like, it creates a bit of anxiety in the group.
and so we said, let's beam it directly into our ears.
Exactly.
We're learning so
head.
much.
Yeah.
Ed,
Hi, Eddie.
player.
Can you tell Karl what you think about him?
Asshole.
Perfect. That was awesome. Thank you, Eddie.
Some of the ghosts didn't like Karl.
Carl's always testing him. Skeptical.
Yeah.
Skeptical.
Some of them really did. I watched Karl buy a ghost flowers once.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true.
That's
He
sweet.
Left them for her.
Sweet.
When the paranormal lurks in every shadow, and each mysterious artifact hides a ghostly tale, one show dares to uncover the truth. The Haunted Objects Podcast. Now you can wear the mystery. Introducing the official Haunted Objects merchandise. Hats, shirts, pins, and more. All designed by independent artists, manufactured by smaller businesses, and carrying the undeniable essence of the unexplained. Embrace the legend. Wear the mystery. Visit planetweird.store today.
We've expressed a little bit of skepticism in how the SB7 works. You know, again, like I said, I did not have a whole lot of confidence in it until I saw how you guys were using it, because there is a lot of like audio pareidolia that happens in a group setting with this thing where you can't really tell what's being said, and then one person says it and everybody else goes, oh,
What inevitably happens is somebody goes, does that just say get out? And everyone goes, yeah, I heard that, get out.
Get
And
out.
It tends to kind of, like you said, it'll create that sort of echo chamber of hearing the same thing over and over again.
And I think that's what like made me gravitate towards it.
Yes.
And doing the method was because I saw both that happening every single weekend.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I'd also heard some weird shit come out of that thing.
Yeah.
Of course.
Very loud answers, answering your question or whatnot. And so it almost became something that we wanted to explore further in a way
Right.
that took out some of those skeptic parts. But how it was working, I couldn't really describe that.
Connor, you dug into this a little bit. What's the deal? Why do people think that a ghost could come through a sweeping radio circuit?
Well, I think that comes down to a question of invisibility theory, right? And so physics textbook 101, you open it and it's like, oh, well, there's the visible world and then there's the invisible world. And the idea is, well, ghosts must exist in the invisible world.
Sure.
So maybe their voices, there are voices around us that we can't hear right now. That's an objective fact. There are radio waves around us right now. You know, the country music station is, in a sense, in this room.
Oh, no!
But the problem is...
Get it off me!
What about the metal station?
We're not tuned into it, right? And so the idea is, yes, there's invisible voices all around. Maybe it's easy for the mind to segue into, well, maybe that's where the ghost voices are too. Right?
Sure.
The important thing to remember is you remember Jurgensen way back in episode 2 and episode 3 of this series. He was doing this with radio static, but he was tuned into one frequency.
Right.
I think we kind of think of the radio as one cohesive blobby thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
We think of the radio as just, well, it's the radio.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, actually, if you kind of look at it, for example, the frequency of 900 is very different from the one at 950. They're two different ponds of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are we changing it all the time?
Yeah.
I know. If ghosts can come through radio waves, you would never change the station.
No.
And that's all that these things are made to do, is rapidly change the station.
Yes.
Yeah, we would want to stay on one station.
We'd want to stay on, because if one could interrupt the wavelength of one station, if it could just interrupt that somehow, we wouldn't tune away from it.
So the idea, we were talking about this earlier, and we realized that it's essentially like getting in a NASCAR and driving around in circles, and there's a table of people that are parked sort of next to you. And as you pass them, you're only hearing little whoa, 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 whoa. You can't make out anything they're actually saying.
The guys at the table are wearing like affliction shirts.
Yeah. But we're just blasting past them in this car, and it doesn't make sense, because if you just pulled up next to them, you probably could hear more of what they were saying.
Right. Which is why so many of the earlier ITC guys would just tune to static, a particular frequency that they knew weird stuff sometimes happened on, and then they would plug a tape recorder in and just let it run and then listen for something later. That actually makes way more sense.
It actually does. The Jurgensen frequency, 1485 kilohertz.
Yes.
Even Frank Sumption played with a lot of radio tones as well. So did Radova. So did Mark Macy in the EVP and the ITC episode. If you're going to sit and listen to just one, it seems more likely that the voices can come across going all the way back to the Men in Black as well.
This is the same problem we had with the DR60 episode, where there's a piece of information that some ghost hunter makes up.
Sure.
Just sort of like magics some idea about how a particular thing works.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, someone like Frank Sumption is told telepathically to build something into his radio, and he doesn't know what it does.
Yeah.
And it leaves people to try and like magic up a way that it works. But you don't really make any progress doing that, because you're building your theories on like a house of sand.
Yeah.
You know, you can't build off top of that, because you can't explain how it works to begin with. So the problem that we keep running into when we're doing what we're doing for a living,
we're back engineering,
is we're trying to figure out, okay, why would it work this way?
Yeah.
And in so many situations, we're finding out, well, it can't. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but the reason we're even getting that point, though, is because we're almost frustrated, because at this point we've done so much of this stuff that like weird shit does happen.
It does.
It's real.
That's the
It really
problem.
happens, but we don't really understand why. And so coming at it from that, like you said, or Connor, like you said, sort of back engineering it a little bit, looking at it from the other side, you start to go like, okay, we're sort of halfway there.
Yes.
But it's that kind of basic stuff that really needs to be understood, that could really change the way that you do this. It might actually yield better results at the end of the day.
But the weird thing, like Dana mentioned earlier, is weird stuff happens on these when you're using the Estes method.
Yes.
So when you are plugged in to an SB7 radio that's just rapidly sweeping, and again, like being in a NASCAR, zoo, 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 just hearing things, whoop, 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 whoop. It doesn't make sense that it's talking to a ghost. And yet, I'm watching people have full-on two-way conversations when they're plugged into an SB7. So what the hell is happening?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Who is talking to me right now? And what's your name?
Hit him.
Bit him.
I passed.
You were alive?
Alive.
What the f*** did I tell you?
The Estes Method isn't just a cool name.
No.
It's literally a methodology behind it.
Yeah, I've always been blown away. Anytime I get insight into it from either of you, I'm always blown away by how in depth you really like went into putting this thing together. Like you legitimately created an actual method. It is not just a name, as you said.
That's very kind of you to say that. We were taking it very seriously because we felt as if we stumbled onto something that was kind of a big deal. We looked back, and Karl and I, while looking at this episode, looked back at some of our old documents, some of our old emails. I mean, there are just transcripts upon transcripts upon, well, what do you think about this? That was kind of an odd response, wasn't it? Well, how can we get rid of this? How can we, and we did several different tests over different periods of time. We were as scientifical as we could be without being scientists in this realm. We just have not been very open about diving into some of those documents before. So
can I ask you why that is? Why have you been so cagey about being more public with all the things that you guys have done to develop this?
Honestly, I think the thing that bothered me the most and why we didn't make it more public was probably because that same sort of scientific thought where it's just like, I know we're not scientists. I know we're not trying to prove that ghosts are real via this method.
Yeah.
But I want to give it a fair shake.
You want to try and understand it.
I want to do it right.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
And so we had the variations on it that we're going to talk about, but a lot of them we only did once or twice. We didn't have the opportunity to do them like 10 times and really try to get an idea of it before the Stanley brought the axe down on the paranormal investigations. And so I think that was, it always felt like we were 3 chapters into a 20 chapter book.
Yeah.
And there was just like never, like Connor mentioned earlier, I wrote like a 60-page document about this. I was trying to write like a paper analyzing it, but we just didn't have the material to like support a lot of it. And then it was a year and a half of trying to find a haunted location to continue the research, and we couldn't find one. And then Hellier started and everything sort of changed. So I think there was an incompleteness to it that kept us from sort of putting ourselves back in the public when we didn't have anything fresh to contribute to it.
Karl's right in that it felt a little bit incomplete and we were kind of too bashful to put together a book or something like that. The thing is, we had kind of lost half of our coworkers, and the half that I'm talking about is the ghosts. We couldn't figure out, after the Stanley let us go, how we could ever do the experiment in the same way, because we were developing a relationship with them on the other side, or for wherever they are, whatever they are, with how to best tweak this method. And then without them, we didn't exactly know how much further we could keep stretching this. We can share with you some of our variations if you want to hear about them.
I absolutely do. I'm sure the audience does too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the first questions we were wondering is, well, obviously the spirits seem to be listening to the people who are asking questions. How far away can the person who's listening to the box be to see if the questions can come through? And so we called that the distance experiment, where we would actually have one person take the box far away and put a baby monitor next to them, so that there's just basically like a one-way radio that you can basically have a long-distance questioner. Does proximity matter?
Yeah.
Was sort of our thoughts. And we did have a couple of hits, but it was kind of inconclusive. It seemed as though the spirits kept saying, talk.
That's right, we watched a clip.
It wasn't until later that we realized, Wyatt, who was our friend who would come up and film Spirits of the Stanley with us sometimes, was sitting next to me up in the balcony just silently. Whereas like Karl and Steve were asking questions from far away, from 2 stories away on the other side of the building.
Talk. Music?
Steve.
Talk Steve. Next time we'll talk Steve.
He said talk Steve. I've been quiet.
You have? Okay. Throw some stuff out.
Okay, I'm talking.
Here, I'll shoot you.
Good.
Correct.
There. Okay, Eddie, if you can hear us and you can relay this message to Connor, Can you tell him if the laser is on or off?
Watching you.
Watching you.
Yeah. It's easy. Try talking.
Try talking. I have been talking. Can
Maybe
you?
he's talking to Connor to try talking and he doesn't get why they're being so
Listenable.
Maybe the ghost was standing next to me and he was trying to tell Wyatt to talk.
What are you doing?
Like, come on, man. What are you doing?
This guy's all kitted out. What are you doing?
Yeah. And so that, I mean, if you just want to go off the one, that kind of, in a sense, answered that question a little bit. Maybe they do have to be
Sure.
near you, but something worth exploring in the future too. There's also the other variation that was very common, which is just doing a split session. And
Right.
that's a pretty easy hookup to get that one set up too.
So explain the split session.
The ultimate goal of the split session is to have two outlets for the method. You can either do that with two people plugged into one box, or you can do that with like maybe say a speaker plugged into that box as well. And so everyone's listening like a normal spirit box while the other person's doing the method. The points of them both is to plug people into the same feed and see if everyone is hearing the same thing.
Oh, sure,
It sort of
sure.
adds an objective element to
Right.
it. Are there words on this box and both people are hearing them?
Yeah.
The way that we did it initially was that we had Connor and Michelle at the Stanley both plugged into one spirit box. But rather than use a typical headphone splitter, we actually plugged it into my laptop and split it that way. And it was recording while those were split. So
Great.
you
Yeah.
kind of got the best of all worlds in some extent there. And so we had the recording to compare to later, and we had two people saying things at the same time. We did get some interesting results from this, but I will say the first thing that you notice 2 seconds into it is it's extremely chaotic.
Yeah.
You were
I can
trying to have a
imagine.
conversation
Yeah.
with voices coming at you from both sides.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because though they will sometimes say the same thing, sometimes they don't say the same thing. And you're trying to, who are you addressing? Who are you paying
Right.
attention to? Very chaotic, hard to wrap your head around. But we did get some interesting, kind of wild stuff, even from just the one session.
There's one that had one particular moment that had very interesting implications that basically Michelle saw in her mind's eye an image of an American flag and sort of was like, she said, getting the impression of America, like in that kind of accent.
Yeah.
She didn't
America.
hear it over the box though.
Oh, so it was a feeling.
But myself on the box said the word America
Weird.
multiple times.
Oh, of course. And you wouldn't hear each other.
Michelle didn't say that, but she kind of felt it and saw it on the inside. And it came to light after we unplugged. Michelle said that she was getting those impressions.
Yeah.
Kept getting like the thought of like America.
Did you ever say America?
I don't think I did.
Because Connor said it twice.
Said America twice.
No.
Yeah.
I just, in my head, I was getting like America. Like,
I heard America twice loud.
America. That is so.
So you
I
got
never
it in your
said
head?
Yeah, I heard it in my head.
That's bizarre.
When I was
Did
seeing,
you tell her that?
No. When I was seeing that image, like all I could think of was like this dude's like America. Like America is just what kept popping.
You get
in my
America
head.
twice.
And I just kept getting like the American flag in my head.
What the heck?
What is happening? with
I
you?
don't know. You're becoming psychic.
What is happening?
And
with
I'm
you?
hearing things. What is
And
this
being
hotel
touched.
doing to us?
And I didn't realize that. I was on the other side of the box. And Karl wasn't even following that line of questioning at all. They were just random spouts during the 30-minute session that we were doing. And so we were like, why would I hear that? And she would see/feel that.
Yeah.
And what are some of the implications of that?
Yeah.
It was also interesting because that was a recorded session. I could go back and listen to the audio of those same parts and see what the box actually said in that moment.
And?
The first one, because Connor said America twice, the first one, all I could really make out was
America.
like a short cut off beginning of America, maybe.
Yeah.
And the second one was more of half the word where it kind of sounded like it said like
America. Nice. Equipment.
Like it was only the first two syllables that time.
Sure.
So there's never any complete America. But what was interesting was when they were discussing it right after that happened, before I'd gone back and listened, Connor insisted that he heard America at least once very clearly. So he knew he said it twice, but at least one of the two, if not both, he heard very clearly.
Weird.
It's kind of odd.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so the impression almost was sent by something.
Yeah.
And was received by two different people in two different ways.
I just want to point out that I have a transcript of this here, and there's something very funny in this transcript. I won't read the whole thing, but the very beginning of it is Connor asking Michelle, "You really saw images? I've never had anything jump into my head like that." And this was how long before, Hellier?
A while.
A year and a half.
Yeah,
That's crazy that you said those words out
nothing,
loud.
Nothing ever came to visually to me.
So funny.
Until a tin can did.
I just sound like a tin can. Just dropped into my mind. Like an old tin can. No label.
Yeah, ate those words later on, but that is in the transcript. That's the thing. We kept transcripts of these sessions going all the way back. And we would do, usually half an hour at a time, night after night after night.
As I said, there is a transcript here that comes from a document that Karl has kept, for a decade. And you've made like 60 pages of this thing, keeping transcripts. It's your private thoughts about what was happening from the very beginning of the Estes Method all the way up to whenever you stop keeping this document. It's 60 pages. It's huge. You've never shared this with anyone before.
No.
I think you should read some of it since we do have it all here.
Regardless, because the word America in the context of this conversation wasn't particularly compelling, it's not clear that it was a spirit trying to communicate. But because Connor did say it twice and remembered it specifically, as well as remembering that it was loud when in fact it wasn't, and it was one of two specific images that Michelle made special note of popping into her head, there was some sort of connection there between the two. Whether that connection was as simple as a subliminal suggestion from a fraction of a word for them both, or whether that connection was because a spirit was trying to clairvoyantly send them the same message is up for debate. But because I, as the sole questioner, wasn't thinking of the word or concept of America at all during the conversation, this would suggest that if the link between Connor's auditory sense of the word and Michelle's visual sense was indeed due to some sort of clairvoyant link to the spirit as part of this process, it would be justification for a spirit communicating with the receivers and not so much a clairvoyant link regarding the conversation from the questioner. Now, being as critical and thorough as I can, it should be noted that if Michelle was more clairvoyantly in touch with Connor, and he inferred the word America as anyone might from random sounds, she may have gotten the image in her head from him in a way that doesn't suggest any kind of discarnate intelligence. Or equally, if Michelle was clairvoyantly linked with myself as the questioner, though I may not have been pursuing a line of questions that related to America, the thought of America in my head, because Connor spoke it aloud, could have transferred to Michelle via myself too.
Ooh, so the suggestion of potentially some clairvoyance happening in this session as a potential answer, which is awesome.
And specifically moments like this that sort of trained us to be very open about random weird things that popped into our head. That's exactly why Connor even mentioned it at all in Hellier.
This is literally just an example of that, like coming to fruition at the end of the day, like literally in Hellier. We have this incredible moment because you had sort of tested it and realized, oh, maybe this is something that we should be, including in this process.
The rest of the ghost hunting that we were doing was kind of like wacky in a sense.
Yeah.
And then we were like, but wait, there's this very weird thing that keeps happening in the basement of this building.
Yeah.
It is funny too, because now it's kind of a staple of ghost hunts and ghost tours in all sorts of places.
Then.
And we were a little self-conscious to start doing it on our public investigation because we didn't want to like derail what people were expecting.
Yes.
Because they had no expectation or basis for seeing this type of weird ass thing.
Yeah,
so we were like, we didn't really do it that much on our public hunts unless it was a chill group and we're like, you guys want to try something real weird?
Yeah, we were self-conscious.
That's very cool.
We're going to have one of us is going to put these headphones on and we're going to start to say some wacky words, and that was kind of how we had to put it across because people didn't know what they were seeing.
Yeah. Can you imagine there are people out there today that were like there while you guys were sort of like, do you guys want to see us do some weird shit? And it's like the first time anyone ever saw that happening live. That's crazy.
This was demonstrated eventually at a few events.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when like people who were on television saw you guys do this and were like, oh, we need to try this ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had there was the Stanley Hotel was also host to some paranormal conferences.
Sure, of course.
We were there and we didn't quite know what to do because we couldn't give our whole tour. And so we just decided to plug into the box and just each take turns on the box showing people this kind of new interesting thing that we had. And that was the first time that a lot of the people on paranormal television saw,
and it was on TV like 6 months later.
And I can jump in and say too that event was crazy. Not only is it where I met you, which like started off hellier.
Right.
I think we were only doing it with our public ghost hunts for probably the last month at the Stanley.
Really?
Like, because we were only doing this for about 4 months at the Stanley Hotel from like January to April. And so I think we finally started to debut it a little bit to those public ones. So at that event, like us doing it in one of those rooms, Connor, Michelle, and myself from the Stanley.
Word spread.
It popped off. There was 1 or 2 groups that were bonkers. And it just like, it was the talk of the event that night when everyone kind of got back together again. And it was just kind of amazing the way that it sort of infected not only our own group, you know, with you guys, but also the way it got out to Travel Channel too.
Sure,
So it had to have been a moment where you realized that the thing that you had spent all this time creating had sort of left that kind of private circle and started to disseminate out into the paranormal community, and you were seeing other people then begin to sort of pick it up and run with it.
I'm almost convinced that it inspired The Hand and Talk to Me.
I think it like had to
because it was all over. I mean, by the time that movie was made,
Yeah.
it was made by YouTubers.
Yeah.
There was like, it was all over TikTok and
Yeah, for
everything.
sure.
And people were doing it as like a party trick.
Mhm.
Where it was like, hey, you want to see something crazy? Put these headphones on, listen to the radio, watch
Do
what
this
watch
crazy
what
thing.
happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes I kind of wish I was on that side of it.
Well, this is the best part about the Estes Method, is that it is very simple to do it. And so if people have questions about it, they have the opportunity to do this themselves for basically under $200 if they want to do it properly. We see so many people online who are doing it with the wrong headphones, with the wrong spirit box, with apps on a phone, without a blindfold, all kinds of weird stuff, or with like, you know, Gansfeld goggles on. If you're going to do the Estes Method, you need to follow the methodology. So let's talk a little bit about what it takes to do the Estes Method from the people who invented it.
Do you believe that an ordinary object can be cursed? You will. Join Greg and Dana Newkirk, 2 of the world's only full-time paranormal researchers and hosts of the Haunted Objects podcast, for a spine-tingling, interactive evening of true supernatural tales told by the very people who lived them.
And he starts to stand up. And I go, oh, that's it. I'm actually going to die. And I'm thinking, how long can I hold this guy off while Dana runs screaming into Gary, Indiana in the middle of the night?
Dare to lock eyes with the restless face. Uncover the dark secrets contained within the Catskills chrome. Learn the fiery truth behind the cursed crying boy paintings. And more. But that's not all. In this show, you'll leave with a ghost story of your own by becoming part of the Newkirk's most daring experiment yet. The creation of the world's most haunted dolls. Your energy. Your intent.
Oh my gosh, her eyes look like it just moved.
Your fears. All woven into vessels that only you can awaken. Haunted Objects Live. You'll laugh. You'll scream. You'll sleep with the lights on. Visit newkirktour.com.
We get a lot of stuff in the mail. 9 times out of 10, we don't experience anything. But that last 10% is where things get really interesting. And occasionally, there's 1% that changes the way that we think about haunted objects.
We bind it to the nails,
and we release it.
The Unbinding, now available on Blu-ray, exclusively at planetweird.store.
The 3 pieces of equipment that are essential to the Estes Method. If you don't have this equipment, you're doing a variation of the Estes Method. But the Estes Method uses 3 pieces of equipment: a blindfold, Vic Firth noise isolating headphones. We'll put a link into the description below, and a spirit box, specifically an SB7 spirit box. That's all we've ever used for the method. If you're using something like the Frank's box, I'd actually consider that a variation on the Estes Method itself.
Sure. So you want to ensure that the receiver can't hear anything outside of the headphones. Some way to test it. I always, before it got a little too redundant and expected, I always like to try to slip a question into Connor early on, acting to my best ability of just sort of like, wait, before you start. And if he's lost in it, you know.
You know what I do is I go, Dana, help!
I've heard
you wouldn't answer anyway.
I've heard you say some worse things than that.
That's true. That's true.
Wait, what?
You'll never know, Dana.
What?
You'll never know.
Great.
Then everyone can relax, right? Like it's a little bit of a spooky atmosphere. There's kind of a seance vibe to it, but ideally you want it to be relaxed. The goal is to have a conversation with an entity, right? And so make it conversational. And then in terms of bringing somebody out of the session, like obviously it's easiest to just tap them out of it. If they're really deep in, though, you're going to startle the hell out of them.
I'm sorry.
Jesus!
So if you want to work out some sort of a more gentle way to do that, you might save that person just a little bit of grief. And then when they come out of it, be very aware of bright light sources because they've been in the pitch black for the last anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours. And it can be pretty painful in the eyes.
So that's the basics on how you do the method. That's the equipment that you need, and that's sort of the methodology that you're going to follow when you're doing it. But there are 2 sides to this. And there are sort of 2 sides sitting in this room, too, because Karl and I are usually on the questioner side, and Connor and Dana are usually on the receiver side. So we figured maybe these guys can give some advice on what it's like to be the receiver and maybe some things that you can look out for, some tips on how to be a good receiver.
I always like to encourage people while you're the receiver. And by the receiver, we mean the person who's plugged into the headphones. The other person is the questioner. Those are the 2 roles that are played in the Estes Method here. As the receiver, you don't want to narrate what you're hearing. You don't want to add your own editorial on top of it.
Yes.
And I notice that happening a lot when I watch people do sessions. They'll say, a male voice just said,
yes,
or that voice sounded like the one from earlier, or it sounded like they were mad, or something like that. Don't add any editorial onto the words that are coming across. All that does is it takes you away from your subconscious mind, where I think a lot of the magic is happening, and puts it right into your frontal cortex. And you're not supposed to pay attention to things like that.
I think that's a really good point, and I think it sort of leads into another one, which is just say the things that you're hearing, because everything else is going to distract you, and you want to stay in the moment as much as possible. So like Connor saying, you don't need to narrate the whole thing, just be in it. Listen to what's happening. Try not to get in your way too much, and just sort of say what you're hearing so that you can kind of stay on that train of thought. You can keep going so you're not kind of getting in your own way, blocking your own path.
I think that sometimes people will sort of casually, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to be hearing something unlike you've ever heard before. It is so bizarre.
It is weird.
Because you surround yourself in it. And when you wear the Vic Firths, and when you wear these headphones, you are swimming mentally in this sound. Like you said, it's jarring to just play it out loud in a room. When you're inside the receiving end of this method, it's all around your brain, and it's difficult sometimes to sort of determine what you want to say. You need to, as best as you can, drop the mentality that you're in an interview.
Yes.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're not sitting there, and it's not a job interview where you know that people are asking questions and you're answering. You don't wait a certain amount of time between saying things.
Yeah.
You're just saying exactly what you hear. Lose a bit of your humanity, lose a bit of yourself, and become a megaphone, and nothing else.
Yeah, I love that. Like, don't have expectations. Don't think that you're like, I'm going to talk to the ghost of this dead nurse. I'm ready for it. Like, I'm ready to. You don't have to bring that because that's not your job. Your job is just to say what you hear.
You're the vessel.
You're the vessel. Another one that Connor actually was who I've sort of emulated really in the beginning is moving around a little bit kind of helps you. If you're really overwhelmed by it, if it sounds scary, if it's kind of freaking you out a little bit, moving your body around a little bit, kind of sitting in a rocking chair, rocking back and forth can be a really nice way to sort of get out of your own head a little bit and feel a little bit more control of your own body. And it just sort of relaxes you a little bit. I found that has been really helpful when starting the Estes Method specifically.
Yeah, you kind of find yourself getting into a bit of a rhythm with the way that the box is going. If we're talking specifics about the box,
yeah,
we could probably argue between AM and FM all day. I lean a little bit more towards AM. Maybe that's just my theoretical mindset too of like, let's listen to these far away sounds and see what's going on.
I like FM, which is funny.
That's fine.
That's so funny. I like it because of there's more tones for me.
The sweep rate that I prefer personally is 200 milliseconds on AM.
That's me. I like that too.
Kind of rocking back and forth can help a little bit.
It seems like sometimes that even happens without you even trying to do it.
Yeah.
I've noticed it even with people who've never done it before.
Yeah.
It's almost like they fall into that rhythm, which is part of the reason why it's always reminded me of a trance state.
Yes.
Because it really does seem like a technologically assisted trance state with people rocking back and forth rhythmically.
I think the reason it's valuable to point it out is that if you're doing it, you might find yourself feeling like you want to do it, and you might be a little self-conscious about it because it could potentially, you could feel like you're looking really weird, and sometimes you really do. But
I got news for you.
You definitely do.
You're saying things that a ghost might be saying through a radio.
Fair enough.
Blindfolded.
All right. Fair enough.
I think it looks pretty awesome.
I think it looks sick.
I thought it looked
Me
real
too.
cool.
Yeah. But most people feel kind of compelled to do it, so just go for it.
Go for it and don't be afraid to move your body a little bit and also open your eyes underneath the blindfold sometimes too.
Yeah, I have like a specific blindfold that I wear that's really sort of tight, but it has pockets so I can actually open up my eyes while I'm doing it. And I prefer that, just sort of have nothing but sort of darkness, but being able to move my eyes around a little bit is sort of helpful for me.
As the receiver, you're going to feel incredibly isolated and alone.
Yes.
And you could be in a crowded room with 30 people watching you, right? And you put the box on and suddenly the world goes away.
Yeah.
And you're in this different place. Part of that, I don't know if it's the same for you, but for me, part of that, a fear comes with that. A little bit of nervousness. There's a paranoia. I think it's mostly on one end, there's a paranoia of when are somebody's gonna touch me to wake me up a little bit. There's a little bit of like on edge feeling because of that.
Yeah.
And you're a fear that everybody's gonna leave you alone.
A vulnerability
right?
there because you can't hear or see.
Maybe it's vulnerable too. And we could think of ways to counter that. But the more that I think about it, I think that maybe that's actually kind of a good thing.
Part of the experience is sort of knowing that what you're doing, if we really believe that what we're doing is kind of communicating with something or someone from the other side, you sort of have to put yourself into that position a little bit in order to facilitate for them. So there's a little bit of weirdness and discomfort and kind of, like you said, a bit of isolation, a strange feeling, like what you're doing is a little strange. And I think that's almost an element of it. Like you have to kind of extend yourself into their space a little bit in order to really make that connection. And you're right. Like there's part of you that's always like, is someone going to tap me or did everybody leave me? But I think that as you kind of get used to it and get comfortable doing it, you recognize that you sort of really what you're doing is allowing your consciousness to sort of tread into their space a little bit more. And you kind of fill it up for them so that they can talk to you and communicate with you that way.
Something I want to point out that I noticed that both of you do, and I think you even might have learned it from Connor, is whenever you're doing the method, you're sitting there and you have your finger wrapped around the antenna. And for some of our younger viewers, they might not understand the significance of this, but if you're our age, you probably remember, particularly if you grew up in like a rural area and you watched like television off of an antenna, sometimes if your show wasn't coming in, you could walk up and touch the antenna and hold the antenna, and suddenly the reception would be so much better. It's because you basically are turning your body into part of the antenna. There's something both scientifically interesting about that, but also psychologically interesting about that.
If you're holding the antenna, you become a booster in a sense, and you also sort of become part of the antenna. I always liked it, even if we're not getting into the mindset of that's how it's happening through physics. I think that it helps a lot with my mentality of I'm now reaching out. Like this is me physically connecting with the space to reach out.
Yeah.
And here it is. My body's now going to make contact with the other.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that touching the antenna actually became really an important part of my process. Yeah.
I learned it from you, and I do it for the same reason. It just feels like that's how you start the process. Like you start it by touching it. The second that you stop, that connection is sort of, it ceases to exist, and you can sort of tether yourself away from it. But definitely grabbing hold of it definitely feels like that, the beginning of the process. Yeah.
The intonation. You guys talk about being a megaphone for what you're hearing. Do you guys do any consideration in terms of how you say the words you're hearing? Do you try to match that inflection? Where does some of that difference in inflection and tonality come from when you're doing the method?
I think that's an important designation, that there's a difference between trying to copy the tone that you're hearing across the radio. I'm never going to be able to match that voice that I just heard, but I can match how they said it.
Yeah.
And it kind
Cadence
of makes you a
sometimes.
stronger megaphone.
Yeah. I also think that there's a few instances that I can think about where I've used an accent, and when I said it, I don't remember using an accent. So there was a live stream we were doing where we were using the Estes method. We were doing the Estes method together, and there was a situation where I said, I saw your dog, with like a really distinct Southern accent. And I remember hearing it with a Southern accent, but I don't remember saying it with a Southern accent. So I almost think also that like you sort of just start to pick up on some of those things organically, maybe without even really realizing you're doing it at all.
I'm gonna open the big door.
Connor's
I saw your dog. That's really scary. I don't like that. It was so clear too. It was, I saw your dog.
He's got an accent, Connor.
You're going to hear little bits of words too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a bit up to your interpretation. You should know the speed of the radio that you're on. You're going to hear talk radio.
Yeah.
You're going to hear the sports radio, and you're going to hear, if we're talking about, Nuggets versus Pelicans, you're going to hear Pelican.
Yeah.
And it's just
for sure
a bit of that. And it's going to be up to interpretation as to whether you heard a word or not. If you feel as though it is a word that is able to be pronounced and said, then say it.
Yeah.
Do you guys do any discernment while you're doing it, or do you just literally say everything you hear, or do you ever go up? I think that was a radio station, right?
So I'll utilize discernment. One of the things that I constantly think about, again, Connor being really my mentor, truly, in terms of like beginning the, utilizing the Estes method and kind of consistently still, I think about something that he told me initially, and it was that imagine that the sounds that you're hearing are sort of the top of the ocean, and what you're listening for are fish that jump out of the ocean. And sometimes you will hear what is obviously little bits and pieces of that radio sound. And to me, I utilize sort of intuition a lot of the time, but I feel weirdly like you can hear the difference between the two, especially if you've had enough practice, and you can tell the difference between hearing a DJ say like a snippet of a word and then what sounds strangely like a word that's jumping out in front of you.
There's a difference.
Yeah, there really is.
Gosh, I know that. Here's the thing: the skeptics have already turned this episode off, so we're fine to just be open about this at this
for
point.
Sure.
The thing is, it's working, and that is how I started to visualize it. As I told Dana too, when you put the headphones on, you put the blindfold on, and then you open your session, and you grab a hold of that antenna, you are mentally entering onto a surfboard that is floating in the middle of a big body of water. Guess what? It's that sounds kind of scary. It is kind of scary. It's supposed to be kind of isolating and kind of a strange place where you're at. While you're on that surfboard, there are fish all around you, and they're underneath the water. They're in the sound waves. Sometimes, like Dana said, a fish will clearly jump out of the water and you say that word. Sometimes you might catch in the distance the top of a fin and you're like, not 100%. I'm not going to say it because that was something that was way off down there. And sometimes it gets to a point where you are hearing the words, but they're the fish that are just below you under the ocean. And those fish that are there, you can see the dolphins swim by next to you. And even though it might not be a word that is extremely shouting across the box, it's a word that's right there and you hear it and you say it. It takes some practice and it takes some discernment. There is a real art to finding those words.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fascinating. See, I'm such a simpleton about it. Like I've only done it, probably single digit times.
Same.
And so I say every single thing that I can hear on it. Do you guys recommend starting that way? And then as you go further in, you start and get accustomed to it, you start to get more selective?
You have to.
I would
think
say, yeah.
You have to start out that way.
Yeah.
And because if you, and I realize how that sounds. He's saying you say the fish even though it's not above the water. So you're just making up the word. You're not making up the word. I'm hearing the word. It's just underneath the radio waves.
Yes.
I just have very particular ears to be able to hear that word, but it's there.
Yeah, you have to like almost tune yourself to it in a way where you know the difference between what you're listening to.
Do you feel like that's a change in your consciousness? Do you feel like you have to like down tune your consciousness a bit when you're doing this in order to be successful at it?
I think, yes. I think that it is a shift in the consciousness, and I think that you can feel it while you're doing it. And I think that for people who have done it enough, you like Connor and I were talking about earlier, when you first hear it, it sounds scary and weird. And when you've done it for hours and hours, hundreds of hours at this point in time, it's a weirdly comforting, familiar space, even though it's kind of scary to hear. And I only think that because I think that you've allowed yourself to tune your consciousness to it. So you know that in the same way, if maybe someone hears singing bells or particular chimes, they immediately kind of fall into a meditative state. I think that the sound of the Estes method, if you're very, very familiar with it and you have enough practice with it, does kind of help you sink into that or shift your consciousness maybe a little bit to the side so that you can be better at receiving those voices.
Those were wonderful tips, I think, particularly for somebody who's just starting out as the receiver, and even for people who are trying to figure out how they can be better at it, how they can go a little bit deeper into it. When it comes to the side that Karl and I have most of the opportunities to be part of, it's the questioner, and there's not quite as many tips for that. I think it really boils down to don't force it, right?
The real distinction is not getting carried away with what is being said.
Yes.
To a point. Now, there's also kind of another side of this, much the same way that you two, I think, have an evolution of doing the method as the receiver. I think that there is some degree of evolution of doing it as the questioner, whether or not that's because we've developed more confidence in Dana's ability or developed more confidence in the spirits or entities that we were trying to communicate through, telltale signs that indicate to us that they've come through. In terms of starting out, it is important to sort of be, without being a dick about it, like we're appreciating that like these are intelligent entities you're trying to communicate with. You need some degree of validation, of verification that an entity is there. And when the receiver is sort of offering up the ideas and the questioner is rolling with those ideas, it can be very easy to both form and run away with a narrative when in fact none of those messages were based on anything that was brought up.
Sure.
Now again, once you have a certain degree of faith and confidence in what's going on, that can be very interesting, it can be very thought-provoking, sometimes very abstract. But in terms of keeping it grounded, keeping it like relatively critical of what you're doing, those validation elements are what you're searching for in order to trust any other information that might be coming through clearly later. And so asking direct questions and trying to get direct responses as best you can out of that is very important part of that process.
A good receiver will stick to what they're hearing and only specifically what they're hearing.
Yes.
And a good questioner will stick best as they can gently to the topic at hand.
Sometimes it feels demoralizing if things aren't making sense.
Yes.
And I think that you should not worry about that. It's okay if it's not making sense. Just follow it through. Make sure you're sticking to what you're trying to do, because if it doesn't make sense at first, maybe the person who's doing it is just sort of getting into the rhythm. And you'll find that as that person goes a little bit deeper, they start rocking back and forth a little bit more. It might start to make a little bit more sense. And I can say this as someone who's been on this side of it for so long. When Karl's in the edit looking at some of this stuff that I've completely forgotten about, we've done hundreds of hours of sessions, just Dana and I alone. Karl will take this stuff sometimes if he's looking for something for Hellier or whatever. It sometimes takes a third party to make that connection afterwards. And you're like, holy cow, that's what this was about. And if you had forced a piece to fit too hard, if you were forcing a puzzle piece to fit in a place where it wasn't supposed to go, it would not make sense the way that it would later when somebody who's like a third party has a look at it and goes, well, wait a second, I feel like it's referencing this.
Yeah.
You should test it every once in a while. Throw in a random question that has nothing to do with the narrative that's being formed. So sometimes there's a narrative that seems to be being formed, but if you really want to test it, throw something random in there and see if you get a response to that. Otherwise, you might be doing what Karl said. You might be kind of sliding down a particular narrative that maybe if you change the context around these questions wouldn't actually be happening.
Not only that, you could test if you're somebody who's going to be continuously testing the method. I would also encourage you to sit down and let's say this: we're at the Stanley Hotel so many times, and what's our goal? Well, we're generally making contact with the ghosts of the Stanley Hotel, so that's the questioner's goal. But what if it was on that particular night, unbeknownst to the receiver, that it was the questioner's goal to ask the ghost what they thought about the stock market? And you just had a 10-minute conversation just about that. And see what they have to say. Something that's totally unanticipated.
Yes.
On that side.
Yes.
And you're going to start to see some confirmation come through.
I think, too, that it's important to keep in mind, I talked about the interrogation aspect before.
Yeah.
You can introduce randomness and direct questions in a way that can be conversational and fun, that doesn't have to be like all business, in a way that isn't welcoming towards the thing you're talking to as well. So like, be strict about what impresses you and what convinces you is a good session without being strict and militaristic in your interaction with it.
Yes.
So if the receiver brings something up that's kind of random, you don't have to ignore that and say, oh, they brought that up and I didn't. We can't address it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of being mindful. You can follow that topic of conversation, and maybe 2 questions later on that same topic, maybe you do get your validation. It's just like, oh, she said music, but okay, you want to talk about music? What's your favorite band? And they're like, oh yeah, it's Green Day. And you're like, whoa, like maybe she said music first, but like she just answered. So there's an adaptability there while holding yourself to a certain standard.
We're going to do something very special for you now. There's something that nobody knows about the Estes Method that I think that, Connor has sort of hinted at once in a while. I've heard Karl hint at it once in a while.
We've talked to museum members. Connor's never given them this list, but we've talked to museum members about a few of these things that Connor has in his pockets.
These guys have done this so often. They know the tells. They know when somebody's actually doing the method. Because here's the thing. Let's be honest. We're all adults here. We try to be anyway. We've seen people faking it.
Sure.
It happens online all the time.
Yes.
We've seen it on television shows. We've seen it in person. We've seen it on TikTok a lot. Seen it on YouTube. There's ways to know when someone is actually doing the method, because there are things that they sort of uniformly exist across the spectrum of people who have done this. And you guys would know. You guys have seen so many people do it. So
I've seen it a lot, and we've watched you guys do it a lot too.
Of course.
It's important to note that the method was not designed to be a scientific proof of the afterlife.
Yes.
It is something that can be taken advantage of.
Yes.
But we've seen the legit thing enough times that there are telltale signs.
Yes.
So for the first time, Connor's going to share a partial list of these things so that while you are out there, you're exploring, you're doing this, you're watching some kind of an entertainment piece where people are doing this, you'll have the tools to know whether or not these people are actually doing the method. And this is beyond just them not having the right equipment. This is actual little physiological things that you can look for in somebody to know whether they're actually performing this. You're going to keep a few of these in your back pocket, right?
I think I have to.
Yeah. You have to.
We're still actively studying this phenomena, right?
Yes, yes.
In watching and taking part in so many sessions. And partially, it was putting transcripts together that we started to notice stuff too. You notice patterns in transcripts, like you were saying, that you don't notice initially.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like, oh, there's a repeating pattern that's going here. During the best sessions, there are indicators of a really good session that aren't readily apparent all the time. I have a list of 7 indicators. I think it's fair to share 5 of them.
Cool.
5 of them now. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Connor's nervous about sharing these.
Connor's nervous.
You know, he's always kept these pretty close to the chest because, you know, it's the way that you can tell when somebody's actually doing it. But it doesn't really serve us very well. If there's other people out there who want to explore this, you know, they need to know how to tell too. The only problem is, that means people can use these and try and...
That said, too, it is not exclusively a list to call out frauds.
No.
It can also be a list to go, oh, this person's in the zone.
Yes.
Like, they're
good.
dialed in tonight.
We should take advantage of this.
Particularly if you're someone who's interested in learning how to do this and doing it yourself, these are things that you can even be noticing in your own body or your own experience while you're doing this. It could be very helpful for you.
A couple of them relate to the receiver. Something that we haven't explicitly ever said out loud is you will notice the receiver when they're in a good session, they will start to feel cold.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but they do. And the receiver will either report that they're feeling cold while they're in the moment, because it is a feeling that they're noticing so much that they have to say something out loud. That's a little bit of a caveat to our earlier protocol where it's like you just say what you're hearing.
It's enough that it's odd.
You do, but it's enough that it's like, I'm feeling extremely cold all of a sudden. And that will usually be how a really great beginning of a moment starts, is with the receiver feeling cold. So that's one tell. A second tell. And sometimes the receiver will report this audibly as well. Their eyes will start watering.
Yeah.
They'll start crying.
Can I comment on this? Because I think this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I know because of studying hypnotism. Lonnie even tells us this in season 2 of Hellier. When your eyes start to water, that means that you are under a really good hypnotic state. People who are under a really deep hypnotic state, their eyes water, which says to me, that's sort of what's happening when you're doing the Estes Method. When you are really deep, if your eyes are watering, it means there's some kind of a hypnotic state involved.
I talked earlier about having eye mask that has space for your eyes to open, which is something that I really like. It's one of the reasons why I like that is I do feel that my eyes water quite a bit. And most of the time we're doing them during live streams and I'm literally trying to avoid mascara smearing down my face. So I'm like opening my eyes a little bit in there or just the act of like moving them around a little bit to stop my eyes from literally leaking water for sure.
Take off the Estes Method mask and you look like Robert Pattinson taking off the Batman mask.
That's what I'm always afraid. I'm afraid my eyebrows are totally gone and that my mascara is smeared everywhere.
So those are 2 indicators on the receiver's end. In terms of transcripts, there are also indicators when you're looking at the session from the outside of what can make a really good session in progress. We will share 3 of them now. We even have some examples as well. And this is, in a sense, this is the first time sharing it. So here we go. All right.
Connor's feeling very...
Hold on to these last few moments. They're yours right now.
Very vulnerable right now.
A good session indicator as well from people, if you're watching a session take place, is there will be responses from the receiver that indicate a visual awareness of what is happening in the room around them.
Yeah.
That's a tell.
Yeah.
The catch is it will have nothing to do with the question at hand.
Yes. Yeah.
So they will, for whatever reason, whatever you're communicating with, will make it clear that they are aware of what is happening in the environment, but that they're not answering your questions.
Yes.
And pay attention to what the receiver is saying.
Yeah.
Because you will occasionally notice them noticing things that are happening around them.
Yes.
That nobody else is paying attention to.
Yes.
What I'm saying is there's let's say there's 3 people standing around and a receiver is sitting in the middle of the room, right? And 3 people are standing around asking questions. You will watch on video playback somebody just subconsciously put their hands in their pockets, and then the receiver will say, pockets.
Yeah.
At that exact
Yes.
moment.
Yep.
And you might not even notice it right away.
Or one that happens all the time that we see all the time is somebody new will enter the room.
Sure.
And the receiver will acknowledge the fact
them. Yeah.
that somebody is there.
We've actually got a clip of that.
Yeah, the batteries are starting to go.
Okay.
It's getting dimmer.
He's back.
I am back. You
Connor
got
has
it, Eddie.
no idea.
It's the best.
So it seems as though the receiver, and when I'm talking about these visual cues, the most common one is that the receiver is aware of the people entering and exiting the space around them.
Yeah.
So you'll have people, the receiver spouting off things about when somebody shows up in the room, when somebody leaves the room, and somehow there's a connection there. But that's an indicator of a good session too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another thing to look out for is what we call the echo effect, where the receiver will say something aloud that echoes something the questioner had just said moments before. This was happening early on. I think even in our 3rd session was possibly the first time we noticed this. And it's something that Connor and I still quote to this day. We'll cue that one up on screen and show it to you guys right now.
Stuck with me.
The record, there's a Green Day song called Stuck With Me. Which I can totally sing, but I won't right now.
For the record.
Are you repeating what I'm saying?
Music.
Oh my gosh.
See, that's crazy because that's a very specific phrase. And that's another thing to look out for are things that aren't just like normal phrases. It's not like one word answers. If you're getting an echo from something that's like a few words together,
that's very
pretty
weird.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how it's happening, but it's an indicator that something very strange is going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still to this day, if either of us say for the record, we say it twice.
I hear it all the time. You cannot say for the record around here without one of these guys going for the record.
It's what the ghost did to us, so it's our inside joke with them. So
Is it weird to have an inside joke with ghosts?
We have an odd amount of them.
All right, so I think this is number 5. This is the last one you're going to give away.
Yeah.
at least for now,
Okay.
until Haunted Objects Podcast season 7 or something.
Okay,
I don't know.
cool,
We'll see.
cool,
Yeah,
cool,
we'll
cool.
see. The fifth one that indicates a really great session is what we call indirect context specific answers.
Oh, I love these.
The spirit or whatever you're in contact with will indicate the correct answer, but it will not be given in the expected format.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's oddly common in these Estes Method sessions, and sometimes you don't notice it until you go back later and you look at the transcript. It's almost as if there's some sort of a rule sometimes, maybe not all the time, but sometimes on whatever end they're coming from in not being able to give a direct answer.
Yeah.
The thing that I want to point out about what is happening here is if this was in another part of the world where maybe they didn't have the same kind of context we'd have, this wouldn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It only means something because of the context, the cultural context and the situational context.
Yes.
And that's what's so strange about this is because it's showing not just like situational awareness, not just the fact that it knows the right answer, but also like it's a culturally aware thing.
Yeah. That it has the ability to communicate
almost archetypally.
Yeah, archetypally, exactly.
Which is strange.
Yes, that like it's telling you something that requires that you use sort of a bit of abstract mind to understand, but it makes complete sense.
Yes,
it's
abstract
very
mind.
Strange.
So the clip that Connor has queued up for this requires just a little bit of setup. It's very strange. I won't go too much into it. Here's the thing: join the museum.
Yeah, you're gonna
and
need
you'll
to.
know what's going on with this.
Uh-huh.
But every Halloween, we have a very special seance. There's one coming up this year where we speak to an entity, a part of Dana's personality, something from the collective unconscious. I don't know what it is.
We don't have an answer for you,
But
unfortunately.
it shows up when we talk to it on Halloween specifically. You picked it up at Waverly Hills,
Yes.
which is the weirder thing. And there's a whole, I mean, there's years of lore.
There's
with
so
this.
much lore.
It's very strange, but every Halloween we have a seance where we contact this thing that calls itself Harlow. It says it's a vampire from planet Saturn, and it is goddamn hilarious. It's always funny. It's always really aware. It gives us weird ideas on how to do stuff and build stuff and think differently. But
it's
there was
so good. The 2022 and 2023 sessions are some of the best Estes methods I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's there might be reasons for that because we continue to like lean into this thing with things that it's asking of us and requiring of us. Point being, it's weird. I know it's going to look weird when you see this clip because we're all dressed like vampires.
Yes.
It became the Halloween seance.
It did.
It started with dressing up for Halloween, and then one year it became, well, let's dress Dane up as a vampire to better channel our vampire.
Fulfill the archetype.
I'm very glad that everyone else has joined me in the costume wearing at this point in time, so it's not just me sitting surrounded by everyone else dressed as a vampire.
Yes. By like year 5, we're all dressed as vampires. That's right. So here's an indirect, context-specific answer.
Yes.
If the operator was talking through the Ouija board, could you tell us what color the Ouija board was? Can you see that? Maybe you could just give us some observations here. What colors was that Ouija board so that we know it was you?
Barbie, baby.
Oh my
Now's the time.
God, Connor.
Share the love.
It's never not astounding.
You can't give direct answers. like we say that. Like they can't. It's not. It's an answer.
So weird, man. But this is the thing. If you're listening to the audio podcast, we were using a pink Ouija board. It was an infamous Ouija board that was only released at Toys R Us for a while. And, not only was it like, for girls, quote unquote.
Yeah, but not a Barbie.
It wasn't a Barbie.
It's not a Barbie Ouija board. It's just pink.
Culturally, what color do you associate Barbie with?
Yes.
You associate it with pink.
Yes.
And looking at that Ouija board, you kind of almost assume there's a Barbie logo on it. It looks like it was made for that.
Yeah. Connor's wig is also awesome in that clip, so please go watch the video.
Connor
version.
clearly was the Brad Pitt vampire.
He was definitely
in that one.
He was the Interview the Vampire. I had a grotesque widow's peak that I drew.
You were a
onto
classic, classic vampire.
The start of that stream.
Oh my God, I forgot. Oh my God.
Clip I think I have ever seen.
It's very true
from you guys.
But by the way, these streams are all saved. You can watch all of these streams totally in their full capacity if you join the museum.
Just come and join the museum.
Join the museum. We promise it's worth it. We promise it'll be the best Patreon you've ever signed up for, I swear to God.
There's an aspect to some of these indirect context-specific answers. At that time specifically, when we were deep in the ghost hunting world, these are ghosts, there was sort of a zeitgeist kind of idea at the time that I'd heard from a good many ghost hunting paranormal investigators of this like idea of like kind of a gatekeeper of the paranormal.
Yes.
Where there's almost like some sort of rule or allowance in like how much the ghosts could do.
That is a weird thing. Yeah.
But you see it repeatedly and often, Barbie baby instead of pink. In this next clip we've got to show you, which still is one of my favorite Estes Method clips and was at the time for many years the best 5 minutes of a session I'd ever seen. It's that same bizarre thing where we're trying to talk to one of our spirits at the Stanley up in the balcony. We're trying to get the spirit to say 4. Marcus holding up his fingers, showing 4 fingers, trying to get the spirit to say how many there are. it seems almost like the entity can't see it, but then later on, we just start saying, just say 4. The answer is 4. Still can't say it. And then in the middle, Mark puts his hand down, kind of gives up on it. And Connor says, wait, I don't see anything anymore. So it's like they can see it. Why can't they just say it?
Yeah.
So the indirect context-specific answers, we'll cue up that clip for you guys too.
Maybe you're different here. Can you see how many fingers I'm holding up? Because visual cues didn't work well downstairs. Can you see better up here? Are you a different spirit up here that can relate or see better, possibly?
Yeah.
Why are you picking on me? Whoa, weird birdfish.
I just did that too.
1 second, please.
We're not giving enough time to answer?
Yeah.
Sassy.
Well, maybe take your time then and try to tell us how many fingers.
I don't
Mark
see
was
anything.
holding up. You put it away.
Oh, that's so crazy.
All right, now tell us.
Break them shapes once.
Don't break your fingers.
Cute.
Yeah, don't break my fingers, please.
I just see.
Mark sees it.
Yeah, it's in front of my face. It's right here. I can see it. Can you tell me what this is?
Can't help me.
Okay, I won't help you. You can do this.
There's 2.
Oh.
6, 20. No.
Keep going.
I feel like
Like
it's really
7.
trying, though.
7.
No. Oh, you're trying. I appreciate your. Just keep trying.
Just listen. 10. 3. Numbers. 8. Help. 6.
4.
6.
4.
7. 9. What? Dude, what?
It's 4. I'm gonna help you. It's
Can't
4.
tell any.
I'm sorry. I mean, I know you're trying. You're doing awesome. You're doing
Help
awesome.
me.
4. I'm holding up 4. Can you repeat that? Just tell me 4.
Yes, no, words. Solicit you.
So listen, you. Is it right here?
Varmint.
Stumpy.
You want numbers now? Which one? Tell me.
The numbers.
I'm holding them up on my right hand.
20?
No.
Man, you're really trying. I appreciate that.
Mark?
Yes.
Yes.
3 apples.
Connor's even said like he's frustrated.
I'm done with this.
Okay. Don't get frustrated.
That was childish.
That was like great interaction. We're excited about it. We're sorry if you're frustrated though, but you came through so clear for all of that. Thank you.
That was incredible. I appreciate you trying.
3.
It said you're childish.
I tried to.
I know.
I know you
Stop
tried.
it.
Okay, no more numbers. You're fine. No more numbers.
You wrecked it.
God, it's so good.
So good. It's so good.
I love that session.
I love even your body language changes at a certain point. It's like you feel like you're being made fun of. You're like childish.
It freaks me out watching it back. That was the longest, at least in my memory of the Stanley Hotel, that is the longest continuous contact.
Yeah.
It was nearly 4 minutes of direct back and forth.
Yeah.
But they never gave the answer. But he was so clearly trying to see something, to experience something, you know, he, she, whatever was talking to me or through me, was aware that there was some sort of question being asked, that it had to do with numbers, and that the people in the room were really directly involved in manifesting that answer, and were trying to get it, but either couldn't say the answer, like Karl said. He told them it's 4, or wouldn't for some reason.
Yeah.
And the implications of that are real spooky. From my end, I had no idea that it was a good session at all. Because when you're under for like 35 minutes, you don't know that those 5 minutes occurred, right?
There's contextual awareness.
Yes. Yeah.
So keep an eye out for those context-specific indirect answers.
Do you wish you could have weekly episodes of the Haunted Objects podcast? If so, you're in luck because we just launched Museum Mailbag, a companion show where we dive deep into previous episodes' topics, answer your questions about the unexplained, and reveal the secrets of the universe.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. The only way to get the show is to become a member of the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal. Becoming a member doesn't just support the show, it also gives you access to monthly live-streamed adventures and experiments with us.
And a magical monthly subscription box with live classes about the occult and witchcraft with me.
Plus, you'll get downloadable goodies, exclusive merch, and more.
To join the museum and get your weekly dose of the Haunted Objects podcast and so much more, join us at patreon.com/paramuseum.
This is weird. This is a weird thing. I think hopefully by this point, whether you were familiar with the Estes Method a little bit or a lot or not at all, you have seen that this is a weird thing that's happening. And it's something that we're not quite sure how to explain without seeing it, like seeing it done.
Yeah.
We've given you all the context that we possibly have. You know, we've got the guys who've spent more time studying this here than anybody else, somebody who spent more time doing it than anybody else. I've watched more sessions probably than anybody else. What in the world is actually happening here? How does the Estes Method work? Karl, back in 2016, in your big document, you laid out a few ideas on what you thought might possibly be at work here. Do you want to elaborate on those?
Yeah, the thinking at the time, definitely 3 possibilities kind of occurred to me in terms of who or what we're talking to as being a first step before how it's happening, right? And so the basic prevailing options, quite simply, are it's a discarnate intelligence, whether that's a dead person or a non-human entity.
Maybe an
a
alien.
vampire from Saturn, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, actually, this is a good point. This is a good point to point out something. You guys have had the opposite journey that most of the ITC people we've been talking about in this series have had, which is most of them started by talking to aliens and then went, wait, no, these are ghosts.
Yep.
I think that we've started the opposite way. We were like, well, we're talking to ghosts. Well, wait a second. I think these might be aliens.
That's so true. Starting as ghost hunters, fans of paranormal TV in the early 2000s.
Yes.
And realizing that.
Then evolving into like becoming fans of Keel and being like, well, why can't we talk to, injured cold or an alien through this same method as well as a ghost?
And then like sometimes you get stuff that's such in such a bizarre fashion that you're like, the ghost costume doesn't fit on whatever I'm talking to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the biggest wave you've ever surfed.
Ride the wave, baby.
Get the out of here. Oh, man.
The alternative is somehow it's each other through
Sure.
ESP, clairvoyance, etc. Whether that's the questioner projecting answers or questions into the person's brain, whether they're picking up on it from other people in the group, that ESP factor, just talking along to each other while we cut one person off.
Just as cool.
Yeah.
Just as
also cool.
Unbelievably amazing if that's the case.
Yeah, incredible.
And lots of evidence to support it.
Yes.
And then, of course, it's nothing at all. It's coincidence. We hear these responses that are indirect easier because you have 200 words that could fit the answer rather than the one specific you demand, right? We have to consider that coincidence. That's what we were doing, trying to take the experiment apart, particularly in the first year that it was invented.
I am at the point now where I'm very comfortable saying it's very hard for me to believe that there's not some weird thing happening with this.
Yes. I think from this document, which was written 5 months after making the method.
Yeah.
Compared to now, I think that it's, I don't know.
It's a hell of a coincidence happening all the time.
Yeah.
So that leads us to another question, which is how in the world are people hearing these voices, right? If these voices are intelligent and they are communicating with us. How is that working? We talked about with the DR60 and with the Frank's box, what made them special is the fact that they had an electric condenser microphone in them. That's how those EVPs were working. At least that's what we believe. The SB7 does not have one of those. It is literally just a sweeping radio. So I don't think we're getting any kind of live EVPs through this.
No, the voices aren't coming from inside the device.
I don't believe that's the case. Well, that leaves us with one option that I think, we might have variances in opinion on this, but I think we can all be on the same page that somehow this has something to do with the way that the sweeping radio is affecting our mind.
Sure.
I think the answer is that it's helping you be a better psychic.
It allows you to experience reality in a very different way because it sounds like something you've never really heard before and maybe aren't very familiar with. So when we think about things like people will listen to drums or they'll listen to different types of music to help shift their consciousness a little bit, I think that's sort of what's happening here is it's creating a bit of an atmosphere that allows for someone to sink into those psychic states a little bit easier.
I think it is the subconscious state that is the secret here. The more that we research the things that we're researching, the more it seems that some kind of a hypnotic state or a subconscious state seems to create a better antenna for whatever it is. I'm a big believer in the idea of the collective unconscious and the idea that that is somehow how psychic ability works. I think that's where other entities can slip in. I think that's how they can communicate with you. When you're using a Ouija board, this is the skeptic argument always. It's like, well, you're using the ideomotor effect. And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, duh, of course, because they have to speak to you through your subconscious. They're helping you through your subconscious move the words around so you can speak to whatever they are. Yeah. What they are might live inside your mind, or maybe your mind is the gateway to communicating with them at all. There's something crazy that I saw while we were doing research on the ITC episode. I want to read this. This comes out of the book Talking to the Dead. Coast to Coast AM host George Noory and Rosemary Ellen Guiley wrote this book. They're talking at the beginning to Frank Sumption, who we talked about in the last episode. And another name pops up. There's a guy by the name of Ron Ricketts, and he created something called the Mini Box, which was sort of based on Frank Sumption's work. He gives all the credit to Frank Sumption when he's talking about this. Rosemary asked Ricketts how the box works to connect to different worlds. Because this is the question, right? Like, how in the world do these radios talk to dead people?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to make sense. Well, Ricketts said there are roughly 3 things at work in equal measure when it comes to interpreting the voices. The first level is wishful thinking. People listen to the mini box, they hear a jumble of radio stations, they concentrate on the words that pop out and grab them, they hear what they want to hear, and it makes them happy. But that is not what the box is saying. There's that weird confirmation bias thing we always talk about. People are just like sort of hearing what they want to hear. That's not what the box is saying. Some people never get beyond that level. Once you get used to the box, you can move on to the second level of communication, which is hearing words clearly that are not part of the radio broadcast. You guys have both started talking about this.
Yeah.
The idea that there's something below them.
They're words that I hear,
yes,
but they're not on the top.
They're not on the top.
And I don't know how to explain that to somebody
Yeah.
who hasn't ever been inside that world before.
Yes.
Out of thin air, someone says a word or phrase that is germane to your question or is personal to you. You tune out jumbles and chatter of the DJs. That's the crashing of the waves, so to speak. The unknown voices come from beneath the waves.
Oh, it literally says beneath the waves.
2011, right? But wait, it gets better. Then there's the third level. Ricketts paused and smiled. This is where I might lose a few people. You hear the box and you get the message directly in your head. That is not audible, but it's impressed into your mind. This happens after you've been using the box a long time and you're in tune with it. The first few times it happens, it scares you, but now you understand that the box is really working. The box may actually work as some sort of channeling device, helping people with psychic or mediumship ability tune in better. We've seen that the people with natural mediumistic abilities get the best results, although anyone can at least get some results. The box might help people tune into their own ability. The more I use one, the better it seems to work. And that's the guy who was basing his stuff off of Frank.
Yeah.
And you never hear that anymore. You literally hear the very reductionist version of this, which is, well, the ghosts are manipulating the radio waves and they're just riding on those waves and they're just talking to you through the DJs.
Mm-hmm. But maybe you have to believe that in step one.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe it's part of the process. It's part of the path towards like finally getting to the point where you sense that that's really what you're doing. It's through experimenting and discerning along the way and letting that kind of develop within you.
What you guys did is you just created a better way to use this stuff in a mediumistic way. Because what you've done, you've eliminated a lot of the confirmation bias that people get when they try to use this as a group and they sit down with all this equipment on, and then you start to actually see the person there actually gets to go to a place where all they have to focus on is those words, is what pops into their mind. And I've thought for a while now that it seems strange that people are always saying, hey, why don't you play the audio like when we're recording Hellier or something? Why aren't you recording the audio so we can hear what you guys hear?
Yeah.
And it's always hard for me to tell someone, well, you're not going to hear the same thing.
I know, because it sounds like we're making it up.
Of course it does.
But we're not.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
And it puts you in this weird position where it's like, well, we could play the audio.
Yeah.
But what are you going to think?
Yes.
You're going to hear something different than Dana is or than Connor is, because I do think those words aren't actually there most of the time. They're psychically being popped into your head.
What's weird is that I haven't made the leap where I'm like, oh yeah, they're not audible sensations, because to me they still are.
Sure.
But maybe that's the point.
Maybe that is the point.
That they're auditory hallucinations that are being induced in there. Which is an eerie thing to think about. I'm trying to step outside of myself here, and like recognize what this is.
I think it's because on a certain level, the hard kind of pill to swallow when it comes to the Estes method is that once you get used to it, once you've practiced it enough, you recognize that there is an element of intuition that's happening once you get to like Connor's level.
Yeah.
Where like what you're hearing, but you're also utilizing some kind of intuition to recognize the difference between one or the other. It comes to you in sounds and it comes to you in that pattern, but there is an element maybe unconsciously that intuition is sort of playing a part in that process. And that intuition doesn't come along until you've done it enough.
Yeah,
that you know the difference between the two. So it's so second nature to you. You're just doing it so organically that you don't really feel like you're doing it at all.
Like when you talk about seeing like the bigger fish under the waves, and you're like, well, that's the word. That's the fish. I intuitively know that's the right word.
Yes, exactly.
I intuitively am hearing that word, and I know that I need to say that word, even though there's so many words. There's something that's intuitive about it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys might feel differently about it. You guys have done it as much as we have. You guys have seen it happen as much. I mean, what are your opinions?
Around that time we were leaving the Stanley, I was very compelled by that idea that the conscious mind is the skeptic seat. It's going, this can't happen. This can't exist. It's not a thing.
It's the filter.
And that the subconscious mind is the seat of the psychic self. And so you have to have the DJ voices blipping in and out. You have to let that conscious mind believe that real words could be being said. And it feels like it's opening the door to the subconscious being able to speak its psychic mind.
Yes, yep.
And while I do still think that sometimes those words can be recorded on a recording, sometimes you will get a direct answer and it is said on the recording. Synchronistically, maybe.
Sure.
I do think that at the core of it, the 80%, the 90%, higher still of the Estes method, I think very much is a trans-psychic subconscious communication system. What we're talking to, I don't know. More experimenting should and can, I think, be done.
Yes.
But I think that at the end of the day, indeed, it is a dialectic between the conscious and subconscious mind in a psychic way.
Yes, 100%. I think that what it's doing is a really necessary thing for most people, and it is demystifying psychic ability, because I think that there's so much silliness around the way that we perceive even just the word psychic at this point in time, that people don't recognize that it's something that's so normal that we're doing all the time. And I think that the Estes method is something that really demystifies it. So it takes you right to the brink of realizing what it actually is. And then what you realize is, holy crap, this is way more organic. It's way more, it feels like more of a normal instinct than maybe I've been led to believe that it actually is.
You look like you're over there struggling.
He's pondering.
I am struggling. I'm struggling.
He's having a ponder.
You know, I've struggled with this episode and thinking that, knowing that we were kind of going to have this conversation, because I think, and Dana, I think you put it beautifully. I have known you guys for a while, and we've been doing this Estes method for almost 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would have gone back and been like, well, Connor, the Estes method is actually just a way for training wheels for psychic power. You know, I'd be like, what in the world are we talking? But I think that I'm bothered because I'm also reaching that conclusion, and I think I would be obtuse to not recognize it. And so
it's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, because I was, obviously not Mr. Skeptic, I'm a believer.
Sure.
But
you're skeptical.
Yeah,
which is what
skeptical.
everybody should be,
Yes.
especially in this field.
Yeah.
But you come up and you had even said this, and I think Dana had said that to me like 2 years ago. And even 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I kind of scoff a little bit. And I'm like, I think I just have better ears than all of you people. I'm like, here's the thing. I'm a musician. I got, whatever. I used to be an audio analyst for Front Range Paranormal Investigations. And I would sit back and listen to things very closely. And I think I'm good at listening to things closely.
Sure.
And that was where it stopped for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just have good ears for what's
Yeah.
in those voices. But then now that we've grown and are starting to logic through this, that side of me is hitting a dead end.
Sure.
And I see that. The other side of me is like, I also cannot deny that in the museum, on these live streams, we're doing remote viewing experiments, and I'm getting the answer right.
Yes.
I know, it's crazy.
Yes.
Like, we're
Startlingly correct, I would say.
Gansfeld stuff, and things are doing well. I'm not saying this as a toot my own horn thing, because I think anybody can do
Anyone
this.
can do this.
Yeah.
Anyone. I truly do believe that.
And so, what a cool thing that it's a way to widen that side of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I'm 100% there, because I still like some ESP stuff, and I think we still have a lot of analysis to do on it.
Yes.
But it's a very good running theory. It's the best I've seen.
Maybe it is ESP. I think that still allows for the idea that something from somewhere else could enter into it. Maybe that's how they communicate. Maybe there's some sort of like telepathic thing that's happening.
Yeah.
You know, I say his name all the time. I'm a very big fan of the work of Dr. Michael Persinger, who believes that we are all connected through the ionosphere because our brains are electric, that's electric, and we have a resonance with the shapes of our skull with that ionosphere, and that we could be storing information and receiving information in specific meditative states. What is the Estes method if not a meditative state? This SB7 is a fluke, because we already know this. These people got it wrong when they were trying to do what Frank Sumption built. Frank Sumption built something that's different than this.
Yeah.
It's for a different use. This thing is just a radio. That's all that this thing is. And it's not providing live EVPs. I really don't think that's the case. This thing just accidentally creates a perfect thing for your conscious mind to pay attention to, while your subconscious mind is actually receiving psychic information through a back channel. Let's add some more credentials to this idea, is the fact that you had your first psychic vision captured on camera in Hellier, the first season, which I realize feels very strange for people. Like, I don't think people understand what a big deal that actually was for you.
Yeah.
Do you think a ghost gave you that vision?
No.
You know what I mean?
I don't think it was a ghost.
Yeah.
If it's either precognition, like Karl and I had talked about, or it's some other force wanted me to see that. And we had been in the session for like 45 minutes at that point.
Yeah.
And I must have entered into some other state.
For sure.
You've talked a lot about Karl and I. I want to talk a little bit briefly about your journey through the Estes Method as well. You guys, I was speaking recently with Jason, our friend Jason, who is a wonderful resource for all things tech, but he's also an occultist too. So he sort of has this combined like magical occult knowledge with very deep tech knowledge as well. And we were chatting and texting sort of about the Estes Method, and you guys came up, and I thought he had some really astute sort of observations about your journey through the Estes Method. This is what he said to me. I want to get your perspective on this.
Yeah.
My perspective on what's happening with the Estes Method is the same thing that happens with any sort of magic. You are making a conscious choice to interact with the divine. In doing so, the divine assumes whatever mask you wish to interact with. If that mask is a radio, you'll get voices out of the radio. If that mask further specifies a spirit that is close to Earth, spirit messages, you'll get things like, go here, do this thing, or solve this mystery, because those things are lower end, starting point of the path, which leads upward. If you follow too closely to the mystery without moving past it, you just end up looping it over and over again, playing out the same story. So you get more voices on the radio that tell you to go more places and do more things, because those spirits are the introduction to your mystery. If the mask is of a higher or a further away spirit, they tell you, hey, the point of things is to have personal divine revelation, because that's what those spirits are. Greg and Dana's Estes Method sessions started out low and moved to high, both in the spirits they're talking to and the equipment. Literally, they're using a radio that points to space now.
Yes.
Some of the material symbolism follows along just the same way the radio messages change. The radio and voices are just the particulars of that story being told. You did start out pretty simplistic with the Estes Method, like he's pointing out.
Yeah.
And now you're being a lot larger. You're talking to something in space, to archetypes, to these sorts of ideas occasionally, not all the time, but that's what can come through a lot. Do you think that mirrors your journey accidentally through this process?
I think it absolutely does. And I think of it in terms of, I think we started in a small pond and now we're in the ocean. And it's just sort of, we've expanded our minds. And as we've expanded our minds, the Estes Method has brought more information into us. And it's sort of like an interesting sort of process where it helps guide us further out into some of those places that feel a little bit scary and maybe pretty far away from your body. But it's such a familiar tether now at this point that it's something that I trust very much. I trust the process. I trust the method itself because I'm pretty familiar with it. But I think it has been something that truly has helped me connect to my psychic senses better than anything that I've ever used in my entire life. And this is, as someone who's been a lifelong magic practitioner, it really has helped with that process and discovering discernment and really recognizing how normal psychic ability really is. And in the process, I think, again, we've moved further and further out, and we've taken, we now have the ability to communicate on such a bigger scale that I really do think that it is a really valuable tool and asset for magic practitioners, paranormal investigators, or esotericists, people that are interested in high strangeness. It is something to be experimented with and to be utilized. And it genuinely, I thank both of you because it is a gift that you've really given to people. You've given people access to this really, really important thing. And you've been humble about it the entire time. So I really think that you both really deserve to be celebrated for this incredible thing that you've made. Truly, I really do.
Of course, Jason's right. And I do think that it's accidental, the same way that you guys accidentally invented this thing. You guys, there might have been people who've had parallel ideas around, but you guys stuck with this thing. You continued to look at new ideas around this thing and about how this thing could be interpreted, what we could do differently, how you could perfect it. I think that really is a perfect image of a magical journey, or even just a journey as a human being.
Yeah.
You have to be open to changes. You have to be open to possibility. I think this thing opens you up, and you get out of this stuff what you put into it. That's something that, I mean, as somebody who's, believes in haunted objects and has started as a ghost hunter, who now is a full-blown occultist, I think that if you are honest with your journey and you are honest and open to, even though you're sitting there alone by yourself in this weird thing that sounds kind of scary, and you feel like I'm alone in here, you're still doing it. You're still listening for those words. That is the work of an occultist. Frankly, you're trying to communicate with discarnate entities from somewhere else. And if you start to be very, very honest about it, and you're very, very brave about it, you will start to find that other things that you think about will come to you too. So maybe it starts with aliens for some people, and then it turns to ghosts, because ghosts are what that person is looking for at that time. But if you change this from, I'm looking for ghosts, into, hey, I wonder if you could talk to aliens with this thing, maybe you'll get aliens. Hey, I wonder if you could talk to archetypal entities. In the museum, every Christmas, we talk to Santa Claus through the Estes Method, and he answers. There are so many uses for this thing. It is only up to how creative you are with it. And the more creative you are with it, the more you learn about yourself, the more you learn about the world around you, and about how things that you've been taught maybe aren't exactly true. You're finding your way out of the cage through this thing. I think that the subconscious mind is the way to get out of this cage and to think much, much bigger about the world. And that includes the paranormal. If you only think that you're talking to ghosts on this thing, you're only going to talk to ghosts on this thing. If you only think that the Ouija board is summoning demons, you're only going to talk to demons on the Ouija board. We see it all the time. But if you're open to things and you're curious and you're constantly looking for ways to go off the map a little bit further, you will find yourself in incredible places, knowing more about the world, knowing more about people around you, knowing more about how maybe consciousness even works. And it's stunning to see it happen. And then to watch so many people accidentally find out the same thing with the thing that you guys came up with. It's like Dana said, it's a beautiful thing. You guys have given the world a pretty incredible gift if people have the ears to hear it. The coolest thing to me about the Estes Method is that it's very accessible.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who spend thousands of dollars on ghost hunting equipment. You don't have to do that to do this. You need a little under $200, and you can do this exactly the way that you guys have designed it to work. People should be experimenting with this. If you have any interest, if you're listening to this at all and you find any bit of curiosity in this, you should 100% do this. We'll have all the links for this stuff in the show notes. One of the things that we had, we were going to have a whole article that we wrote a couple years ago that was like a perfect primer to the Estes Method that had quotes from you guys, things like that. We'll make that available on the Patreon for free. You don't have to join the museum to see this thing. Go to the Patreon. We'll have the links in the show notes. You can read this whole thing for free. You can share it with your friends. Put a little money aside. Grab yourself a pair of these Vic Firth headphones. Grab an eye mask and grab an SB7. Sit down and try this. And more important than that, experiment with it. Come up with variations on your own with this type of stuff. See if you can figure out what the two tells that Connor didn't tell you are. You'll be able to do some of that. And you know what? The worst thing that might happen here, you might get a little more psychic. You know what I mean? You might get a little more psychic while doing this. Maybe you won't talk to ghosts. Maybe you'll talk to something that's important for you to talk to. Maybe you'll talk to your cat. That's super, super cool. Karl had a really great quote at the end of his document, this document that he's been putting together for so long, that I think sums up where things are with the Estes Method still.
We don't need to be scientists to realize that in our long-term process of isolating as many variables as possible, we may have just stumbled across something truly bizarre and exciting. Please try this experiment yourself. Probe the limitations, offer up other variables and explanations that I did not know about or think about to consider. And most importantly, think critically about the work that you are doing. Extraordinary claims by those non-scientists do require extraordinary analysis if we are not to make a farce out of ourselves as we bumble around in the dark, believing we've made contact with the answers to the most profound mystery facing mankind. I think our experiments and variations at the Stanley were interrupted by the axe that fell. And though with Connor being out here now and this incredibly haunted museum you have, I think it's going to be a very exciting year ahead in terms of taking another stab at a lot of these variations and experiments, in addition to what we're already working on for Hellier 3 and our other projects as the method evolves. But I think that it's very exciting to encourage you all listening to this podcast that you can pick up where we left off and you two can experiment and add variations and test those variables and see how far you can push not only the experiment, but I think also yourselves.
That's the best part about this. The barrier to entry is very low. This isn't some hard to obtain grimoire. This isn't a one-of-a-kind haunted object that exists out there that you have to hunt down through the mountains. This is something that you can pick up. This is off-the-shelf stuff. And the things that we've experienced with it, you've seen them in this episode. We've talked about them. We've shown clips about them. We've learned stuff about ghosts. We've learned stuff about radios. We've learned stuff about the way that people have sought different answers to the questions that they have about the world around them. And most importantly, we've learned a lot about ourselves and potentially what we're capable of just as human beings, all of us. It's that kind of realization that truly makes the Estes Method equipment a haunted object. Thank you guys for tuning in to our Voices from Beyond miniseries. We have learned a lot. Hopefully you've learned a lot. I hope that you're inspired to go out and experiment with the world around you. We are going on tour right now. This is the last time we're doing the Haunted Objects live tour with this specific show. If you want to come help us create the world's most haunted dolls, now is your chance. We're going to 10 cities, and that's it. After we get back, we're getting back to work. The podcast will come back with a full series next year. But we have something more important that we're working on right now, which is Hellier 3. I know, we keep hinting at it. It is actually happening. We're almost done with it. We're hoping that'll be to you next year. We're very, very excited about it. So make sure you subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join the museum. Join the Patreon. There's all kinds of stuff going on there all the time, even when the podcast isn't live. But we'll see you guys again, if not on the road, very, very soon, either in Hellier 3 or in Season 3 of the Haunted Objects podcast.
The Haunted Objects podcast is hosted by Greg and Dana Newkirk, produced by Connor J. Randall, with cinematography and editing by Karl Pfeiffer, and features exclusive artifacts from the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal. To learn more about the artifacts featured in this episode, take part in live interactive experiments, and enjoy exclusive Haunted Objects content, become a museum member at patreon.com/paramuseum. This has been a Planet Weird production for Spectre Vision Radio.
Yeah, this is the box that we actually used when we were starting the Estes Method. So in Spirits of the Stanley, if you guys check that out too, we've been showing all these clips. If we link below to it, this is the one that you see. It has the sticker on the back that we would give to the people who were in our groups from the Stanley Hotel tours. That's so I knew which spirit box was mine. And this is the one that we created the Estes Method with, and Karl and I would like to formally donate this to the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal Occult.
That's so cool.
Amazing.
I'm literally tearing up.
It's a real piece of history.
It is. It is.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for honoring it so well, and we'll continue to experiment with it. So that's the thing. We'll put it on a shelf, but I'm going to take it off the shelf a lot.
Oh, good.
So that we can keep working with it as well. But this is the box. So
Thank you, guys.
Put it in the formal spot.
Oh man, look at this. This is awesome. Well, this thing. There we go.
The original one.
The original.
Loyalty right there.
We'll put it on a shelf, but you just have to let me take it off the shelf a lot too.
Oh, of course, of course,
Absolutely.
of course. This is a piece of history.